So overall, my career has really been centered around one core question of how digital behavior is really translating into business strategy. They can really compress what used to be a 10-minute browsing session into a 10-second recommendation, really becoming a meaningful shift for the e-commerce landscape. And lately, of course, that's increasingly including topics like AI-driven discovery and how technologies like AI agents are really shifting and changing that e-commerce landscape.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesdays with Trailblazers, brought to you by Martech Edge, the video podcast where we bring you the latest trends and insights in marketing and technology. I'm your host, Adesh, and today we have with us Victoria Mauriello, Principal Consumer Goods and Retail at Similarweb. She is responsible for driving growth with digital analytics. So without further ado, let's welcome Victoria. Hey, Victoria, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Likewise, Victoria, we're quite excited to see what wonderful insights you have for us today.
Awesome. I'm excited to share.
Let's start with knowing who Victoria is. I'm pretty sure our audience would love to know your career trajectory, all the achievements that have come along, and, the lessons you've learned.
Yeah, of course. Sure. So I'm a principal on the advisory services team at Similarweb, where I primarily work with consumer goods and retail brands on digital strategy and competitive intelligence. So a big part of my role is helping companies understand how consumers actually move through their digital consumer journeys, or as we like to call it, the digital landscape. Things like how they're discovering products online, what they're researching, what channels are influencing purchase, and where opportunities exist to grow. So I'm working closely with senior marketing, e-commerce insights leaders, often at large consumer goods and retail companies, and then translating for them large volumes of behavioral data into actionable strategies. So again, that could be things like optimizing the digital shopper journey, understanding competitive positioning online, or identifying emerging shifts in how people discover products. And then before Similarweb, I worked at Gartner's L2 practice, where I focused on benchmarking digital performance for brands in the beauty, spirits, and broader CPG industries. So that role really helped shape my perspective on how brands compete within the digital ecosystem, and then, of course, how quickly those ecosystems are really evolving over time. So overall, my career has really been centered around one core question of how digital behavior is really translating into business strategy. And lately, of course, that's increasingly including topics like AI-driven discovery and how technologies like AI agents are really shifting and changing that e-commerce landscape.
Coming back to the next one, Victoria, there's this term called UCP-enabled AI agents. How do you define UCP-enabled agents? And why are they becoming relevant for e-commerce landscape?
Yeah, of course. So when I think about UCP-enabled AI agents, I'm thinking about AI systems that aren't just answering questions, they're actually connected to commerce infrastructure. So instead of just giving you information, they can actually access live product catalogs. They can compare your options. They can check pricing and availability for you. And in some cases now, they're even facilitating the transactions for you. So that's what makes them different. They're not just chatbots. You're not just searching for things. They're doing it for you. They're really plugged into the commerce system. So people are getting more comfortable saying, just tell me the best option, instead of manually, again, researching 15 tabs at once or having 15 tabs open at once. So once AI agents can access structured product data directly, they can really compress what used to be a 10-minute browsing session into a 10-second recommendation. So it's really becoming a meaningful shift for the e-commerce landscape.
Got it. Now, traditionally, Victoria, product discovery has been shaped by search engines and marketplace algorithms, right? So how can AI agents introduce a new layer of search?
Yeah, so when I think about search, if you think about Google, it's very list-based. So you would type something into Google and then you get 20 links or 40 product titles in a shopping ad, and then you do the filtering yourself. But what AI agents are introducing is a new layer. So instead of just giving you a list, they can interpret your intent. So if I say, can you recommend the best high protein snack under 200 calories for work? By the way, I'm allergic to peanuts. The The agent isn't just matching keywords, it's weighing the attributes, it's weighing the reviews, the price, availability, and then even those dietary tags. So, for example, too, Amazon's Rufus is already doing this inside the marketplace. It doesn't just show products, it's explaining the differences, it's surfacing recommendations based on specific use cases. So, search is now less about ranking, it's becoming more about context and reasoning.
Got it. And do you see AI agents acting more like a personal shopper, a research assistant, or something else entirely?
This is an interesting question, and I think it depends on the category. So, when I think about categories that are specific to replenishment, like toothpaste or paper towels or vitamins, it feels more automated. So, that's more like a delegated purchasing assistant or But in higher consideration categories, which we see shoppers using AI a lot more for these high consideration categories, where either maybe one, the price tag is a lot higher, or the category is very saturated, like electronics or beauty, or even certain food categories. It feels more like a research assistant or personal shopper helping narrowing your choices. So, what's interesting is that it can kind of fluidly move between those roles. And unlike a human shopper, it has instant access to structured product data. So it can review the summaries and price compare. So that's something that's really powerful that we've never experienced before. So, in essence, again, I think it depends on the category, but it's definitely a hybrid between part research assistant, part delegated decision maker.
Interesting. That's an interesting approach. Now, could AI agents reduce the importance of traditional keyword optimization and instead prioritize structured product data and context?
So it's interesting. I don't think Google search or keywords are going to disappear definitely not soon. But I do think their role changes. So in traditional SEO, you're optimizing for exact phrasing, but with AI agents, it's more about contextual understanding and structured attributes. So if your PDP clearly states, going back to that high protein example, like high protein, gluten free, under 100, that becomes much more powerful than simply repeating a keyword, or as we like to call it, keyword stuffing. So tools like Rufus are now synthesizing attributes and reviews to answer those nuanced questions. So if a brand's product data isn't structured and complete, you're at a disadvantage. So even if you're ranking really well for traditional search, so that's definitely a nuance there. So I'd say it's like more about keyword optimization and SEO evolving more into like that context.
Got it, got it. And do you think that, product content strategies will need to evolve to serve both, human shoppers and machine decision makers?
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets really interesting because historically content has been very human first. So it's emotional language, storytelling, the brand voice aspect. And that still definitely matters because as humans, we need reassurance, we need connection. But now content also needs to be machine readable and very, very explicit. So if your differentiators are buried in vague marketing content, an AI agent may not be able to extract them correctly. But if your claims and benefits are clearly structured and laid out on the page, that your consumers are talking about your products, and it's consistent across your copy, across retail sites, across your D2C, the AI can surface them more confidently. So for content, I would say you need both one, clear, structured, rich content for machines, and then two, it also still needs to be engaging and persuasive for humans. So it's kind of a balance of the two.
Great. Now, this one is a question I was very keenly interested to know what your answer would be to this one. So, what new responsibilities might fall on e-commerce and digital marketing teams as AI agents become more involved in product discovery?
Yeah, this is a really good question because I'm sure all of the e-commerce and digital marketing teams are now getting these questions. I know a lot of my clients are coming to me with these questions. I would say the biggest shift is that this becomes cross-functional. E-commerce teams will need to own structured data hygiene, making sure their attributes are complete and that their taxonomy is consistent. Marketing teams now need to think about how positioning translates into machine readable claims, and then how reviews reinforce key differences in your products compared to competitors. So, in a world where an AI agent may summarize your product in one sentence, I love saying this. It's like your teams need to start asking, is that the one sentence that we want our brand to be known for? Let me repeat myself, but is that the one sentence we want our brand to be known for?
So true. Now, how should brands start thinking about measuring visibility when the product discovery happens through AI agents instead of, traditional search pages?
Yeah, another good question because I truly think this is one of the biggest measurement shifts we've ever seen in the digital marketing space. Historically, visibility meant impressions, rankings, click through rate, share of search. But in an AI driven environment, those metrics start to break down. So if an AI agent evaluates 10 products and only two surface, the filtering happens before a consumer ever sees the results page. So visibility becomes a lot less transparent. It's a way more selective process. Again, this is a point I like to reiterate is the question shifts from did I rank to was I selected? So brands will need to think in terms of share of recommendation in AI generated comparisons, which product attributes are being cited, review sentiment themes influencing those AI responses. And then again, the context in which brands are framed. Is it premium? Is it value? Is it best for families, etc.? So this is where partners like Similarweb become critical. We're able to actually track that emerging AI visibility, how shoppers feel about your brand at scale, and also analyzing the competitive context in which AI systems position you. So now with AI, winning isn't just about showing up, it's about being chosen by that machine.
True. Totally in agreement with you on this one, and quite interesting to know your approach on this one. Now, I was really interested to know what risks do brands face if they delay preparing for a future where AI agents influence product discovery.
Yeah, and this goes really along with the last one. I think the biggest risk is that you become kind of invisible. If your structured data is inconsistent or unclear, an AI agent may not be able to interpret your products correctly if it's interpreting it at all. So because AI compresses that consideration set, you might not even realize you were excluded. So I think there's also a competitive risk, right? If one brand in your category is extremely disciplined with attributes, reviews, and availability, and they're really on top of it, and you're not, the AI layer could definitely consistently favor them. So I think once recommendation patterns are established, it may be hard to place those brands that have prepared for AI, even if it's not huge in your category right now. Because we are seeing, like, for categories like electronics, it's a lot bigger than something like food and beverage for now. So brands really need to start implementing it yesterday, I would say.
Okay, I love that line. They should have started implementing it yesterday. Well said. So now let's put you on the spot. If you are advising a CPG or retail brand today, what are the first three actions you believe they should take to prepare for this shift?
Yeah, I love this question because honestly, this is becoming a really big part of my job. So if I had to simplify it into three actions, I would say first, clean up your product data. So are your attributes complete? Are your claims clear? Are your benefits consistent everywhere you sell them across all of your retailers, your D2C sites? AI tools can only work with what you give them. And if your data is messy or vague, they'll fill in the gaps for you. And they might not be talking about your product the way you want them to. And it may be inaccurate or not an ideal outcome. Second, see how AI is already talking about you. So go into tools like Rufus or other AI shopping assistants and literally ask about your brand. So, like, what differentiators are coming up? What's missing? Are reviews reinforcing what you want to be known for? So this is where Similarweb really comes in. We can help brands understand their AI visibility. And it's not just about traffic, but whether they're being recommended, how they're being positioned versus competitors, and then what are really shaping that narrative. And then lastly, get all of your teams aligned internally. This can't just sit with e-commerce. You need to involve marketing, media, data, your retail teams. Everyone needs to be thinking about how AI systems are ingesting and summarizing your brands, because we're not just optimizing product pages anymore. We're not just thinking about ranking. We're really optimizing how the machines are understanding our products.
Now, wanted to know your perspective. So we usually ask a lot of folks about, we kind of bring the crystal ball out there and try to understand from a consumer goods perspective, from a retail perspective, from an e-commerce perspective. Obviously, AI agents are already there. That's kind of in the marketplace today. But let's say if we bring the crystal ball out here, what is your sense about how where we are headed to in the next 5 to 10 years with AI propping up into
Yeah.
this particular landscape? What do you see? What changes do you personally see happening? What's your take on this one?
Yeah, this is a really good question. It's so interesting because I think a year ago was, or maybe a little bit over a year ago, is when we really started using ChatGPT and all of these AI agents. And they didn't used to be as smart as they are now, but to see how smart they've become so fast is kind of crazy. So I think from a consumer goods and retail space, like if you're not an agent where your other retail partners are, like you're going to become replaced over time, because I think, again, more and more shoppers are really shifting to use these agents. It's something like that people are now, I know my personal behavior has changed. Instead of Googling something, I now go to my ChatGPT app. I'm looking for product recommendations and it's getting me an answer much, much faster. So from both a retail perspective and a consumer goods perspective, these brands really need to make sure they're on top of how the agents are perceiving them and when they're getting recommended, because like more and more users are going to start using these agents for sure.
Glad you said that, because I personally do that as well, because I've stopped using Google, and that's one of the other questions I had in terms of, because of the fact that, and it's not nothing to do with CPG or retail or e-commerce, it's more towards SEO and keywords, right? Because of the
Yeah.
fact that, we used to rack our brains around how we get those SEO correct in terms of how Google does them. And now we have had this radical shift where, all the searches are moving ahead from your usual Google platform to, let's say, a Gemini or a Chat GPT or a Claude, because rightly, as you said, I get a structured answer. I don't have to use multiple links to actually get my answer. I get a structured answer which is being through multiple links. So how do you see this radical shift happening changes the SEO game entirely, or changes how we look towards SEO?
Yeah. Again, as I mentioned before, I don't think that SEO is going to ever go away entirely, but I definitely think it's going to eat at that. I saw a statistic the other day that within the next 5 years, and again, this is a projection. This was someone projecting that ChatGPT usage will exceed Google usage, which I thought it would maybe take 10 to 15 years, but now seeing how rapidly we're seeing more users like join these chat GPTs and Gemini user bases. It's really crazy. And another that Similarweb actually has is that the more the more you the more you use ChatGPT, your Google search usage actually goes down. So although it's not going to replace it entirely, I do think that it's going to sort of shift that a little bit.
Great. I mean, yeah, that's something that racks my mind. And damn, I didn't know that. I actually thought it actually would, because of the fact that I usually take inferences from my daily life. And I thought, if I'm doing the same thing, I'm pretty sure a million others are doing the same thing. And if a million others are doing the same thing, I'm pretty sure their searches would actually exceed Google searches. So I was under the impression that's already happened. That one hasn't happened yet. Hope Google can do something to probably salvage the situation, but they have to take the AI train as well. And I think it jump on the bandwagon anyways, right? So let's see how or what exactly it boils down to. And I think over the coming years, I don't even think years, over the coming months, we get to see a lot of things within the marketplace, within consumer packaged goods, and within the entire retail e-commerce. I think this is one of the most booming industries I've seen in terms of how AI is taking over a lot within this industry space. I actually attend a lot of events as well, which is catering to retail and e-commerce, and everyone's been saying the same thing. I'm pretty sure you agree with that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I think, again, like to see the crazy shift of what the AI can do and how much smarter it's become just over the past couple of years. And I think people are going to more and more start to trust it, start to rely on it over sifting through a million links on Google. So I definitely agree with
Thank you so much. You've been wonderful, and really appreciate you sharing your wonderful insights with us.
that. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise, and really enjoyed hosting in our podcast Tuesdays with Trailblazers. And thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, stay tuned with Martech Edge for more insights. Till we meet again, your host, Sadesh.